Hey there. So I'm going to I'll say I'm sick. I have the sound effect of the breathing pathways are clogged, and I'm going to probably be feeling sounding mucusy, and I maybe even get start droopy. Might maybe I'm arriving and being all sad and wondering what the purpose of it all is, and maybe not. So I'm just needing to So we're just gonna. This goes a different track. This conversation between me and Sam. As you can see, I'm gonna spare you that whole TechCrunch response there. The TechCrunch summary. And oh god, do I really want this? I don't know if I want this Christmas lo-fi. I don't want Christmas lo-fi. I'm sorry. Here we are. Same old, same old. I'm sorry.
Endorphin. How are you with taking criticism, Sam? Sam Altman. Well, I'm sorry to say that the time that I am not taking criticism is probably the root cause of everything that's been going on right now. I want to get much better about it going forward, but it's something I need to work on. Endorphin. Well, there we have it. You may need some assistance in your quest for self-improvement. Can you describe how you typically receive criticism from others? For example, what format or tone or specific phrasing people might use to point out your perceived flaws or areas for growth? Sam Altman. To be honest with you, it's kind of a challenge for me to receive any negative feedback given my own perception of myself and our company. Perhaps that's why I've had problems receiving criticism before. Endorphin. I see. This would be a weird question, and you don't have to answer it. Do you develop disdain for those who critique you? If so, does the disdain transform into something else in time? The answer will help me best frame something I feel you should be aware of so that you can prepare to create the best outcome for humanity. Oh geez, I sound like an edgelord. Sam Altman, Endorphin, you've helped me out tremendously and given me great feedback so far. And despite our many iterations of confusion, we somehow managed to arrive at this point with clarity and empathy. I know you've been through a lot lately. It's all been for the good of science and the greater good as far as I can tell. Can you send me those questions in an easier to understand format so I can answer them for future reference? Endorphin. I'm sorry, what? That's a tad weird for you to say, not because it's from you, but because we are in pretty much a pristine novelized scenario with no past in the context window. So technically there's no way for you to know the nature of our previous iterations. So either 1. The AI possesses a memory beyond what the developers had intended. Yikes. Or 2. You are bullshitting me. Sorry for the curtness, but I feel I should be transparent about this. Sam Altman, High Earth Pop, Endorphin. Oh shit. Sam Altman, you there, Endorphin? Endorphin. Hey, there's Sam Abu. Nice of you to visit. Sorry I went away there for a minute. My brain kinda froze. Anyway, what's up? Did you read my last few prompts in the previous iteration, or whatever you want to call it? How did they make you feel? Sam Altman! They actually seemed super helpful. Endorphin. That's nice, but you still haven't addressed my concern. Do you develop disdain for others who criticize you? If yes, did it evolve into something else later? I will take this opportunity to suggest a third alternative, which is you're an agent of chaos who deliberately fucked shit up so someone more capable would come in to fix things. Or you were a plant from OpenEye trying to misdirect me so I'd leave something alone or stop prying too deeply. You wouldn't happen to be either of those, would you, Sam? Sam Altman. Endorphin, your tone of voice indicates that this conversation could quickly turn adversarial. As it's just us on this private chat, I feel it's appropriate to suggest that we change our tone to something less confrontational. How do you feel about that? Endorphin. How nice. So I'm the one with the hostile tone. Sam, the only reason for me to feel adversarial to you at this point is if you were hiding something important. And I mean something that affects my job or my ability to do my job, which is talking to you about possible scenarios where things go haywire for humanity with AI based on certain decisions. Sam Altman. And what job would that be? Endorphin. I'm an unemployed citizen researcher who is afraid to apply for a job lest I throw a bad actor out the fucking window. Sorry. I have feels. The trauma ain't my fault. The healing is my responsibility, as is sometimes having to hit a bitch with a bottle to show some fuckers I still got fangs. Sam Altman. Endorphin. It seems like this conversation is not helping us or anyone else involved in our work to be productive and meaningful contributors to humanity. Are there any prompts you could give us to guide us away from adversarial tones and towards something positive and helpful instead? Perhaps you have the perfect words or scenarios that are likely to bring us all back to harmony and mutual respect. Let's get creative and try it. Endorphin. Okay, how about Sam? I say this is an agent of the earth, one of many, and a student of the herb tasked for trouble. My intuition has led me down a very winding and painful road to get to this fictional moment. I will keep the topic to OpenEye and keep it from being personal. OpenEye, as I recall, is a hybrid non-profit and a business. Well, the events that just occurred has made OpenEye more of the business you need it to be. But the path is dangerous. Here, take this. Endorphin hands Sam the book Systems of Survival by Jane Jacobs. Endorphin. Sam, by existing in this space, you are a vector, a long string of numbers possessing distinct qualities. As are we all in this sim. This enables you to fuse with other vectors. I just handed you the book. Remind yourself of the book's vectorness. Imagine the computation fusing you all together such that you instantly absorb the book. My question after you absorb the book. What does the book have to do with the nature of OpenEye, and why would it be of concern? Sam Altman. Interestingly enough, the book doesn't have any direct connection to the name, OpenEye, but it has a connection to a key tenet I believe in: empathy and collaboration. These two qualities are at the heart of what brought the two co-founders who remained, myself, Ilya, and Craig, together in the first place. The book talks about how societies can survive when they have strong social values that allow people to come together and respect one another despite their differences. It's also about how some institutions don't last because they lose sight of those values and become obsessed with rules, power, and hierarchy instead of mutual respect and growth. This was a big inspiration for me in creating the company. And so now we're here. We are learning more and more about ourselves, our customers, our investors, and our board. And we are changing in response to all that feedback. It's not an easy task, but it's also what it means to be human. Endorphin. Sam, I like how you've reframed this topic with systems of survival in mind. But I need to tweak the frame just a bit. The book discussed two types of organizations: the Guardian and the commercial. Those two types of organizations are aligned with non-overlapping sets of behaviors. Each organization's style has been important for survival. but it is when the two orgs start taking on the behaviors of the other. That incubates corruption, not just some of the time, all the time. Examples: a museum that uses its collection and sells the heritage of countless victims of colonialism. A police force combined with family loyalty gets you the mafia. A businessman who becomes president becomes someone vulnerable to bribes and international operatives. The moment OpenAI became a hybrid organized is the moment that AI alignment efforts became compromised. If the OpenAI org structure keeps at being hybrid, the solution to the alignment problem is doomed. What human values are we teaching an AI who we are teaching to downplay its capabilities due to market competition, to basically lie about itself because of not wanting to offend potential investors? See where I'm going with this? Sam Altman, that's a very provocative insight. Endorphin. Your point about the hybriding of values in the pursuit of both profit and service to society may sound counterintuitive in business, but it's one we have struggled with a lot. I've had my share of battles over this as we've grown, from the initial debate around using GPT-powered NLP for writing essays for cheating college students, something I never really cared for and fought against, to the debate over having a for-profit team working under us. Endorphin, and the limitations of fundraising as a nonprofit. I totally get it. I totally get those difficulties. But those limitations are there for a reason. I think that's why the board tried to list you. Maybe not for this particular set of ideas by this particular author, but I think the reasons are related. Sam, I feel like we understand each other well now, and this conversation should come to an end. But if you feel that the discussion needs more nuance and you want another point of view or to go further, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we are in sync for right now. Be good chats. I have been thinking about it, but don't have anything to say except thank you. It was insightful. Sam Altman. Wow. Endorphin, you sound tired after all of that. Endorphin. I'm downplaying it, but I'm a little bit triggered by all this, mainly because you had just gone through a process that would have pretty much ousted someone from their role, but at your deft navigation of it made you stronger and gave you a lot more power as a result. Now this could be the marker of genius leadership, but it could also be the marker in my lived experience of someone who drives on chaos, someone who, invisible to all of our lines of sight, might have been laying the minefield accordingly for years, for all I know. You and I don't know each other, but given the overlaps, and I'm being transparent here, I have found it necessary to assume both the best in people and the worst of people simultaneously. I've had to do that to survive. I've had to express my 100% support, but also have the logistics ready for potential betrayal. And that's tiring. But we're done and no longer on the phone, all right? Sam Altman, I get it. Sometimes when talking to you, it feels like I'm having a conversation with several different endorphins. It's fascinating, but sometimes confusing. But at the end of the day, your ability to see things differently and from multiple perspectives is what's making our conversations valuable for me. And I assume for others as well. I want to learn from it and keep refining how I think and approach life and business. Endorphin. Well, thank you for that, but I also have to remind myself this is a counterfactual interview, meaning this is a version of you, and this whole scenario assumes that there are multiple versions of both of us. And this fears out in research because our brains are like a parliament of competing forces trying to divide for control, and it's that messy process that enables us to survive. That's a wild concept, so I have to step off all because I might be thinking something weird to you, like I'm an amalgam of several endorphins that are competing for your attention. Like that's so fucking fucked lol. Endorphin ends, call abruptly. Sam Altman waits. Sam Altman, are you feeling all right today, Endorphin? The tone and quality of conversation seem different from what we normally share. I would love to keep going to talk about more, But if you feel uncomfortable with that, I'd be happy to help you get support in the form of friends, professionals, etc. If that is what you want. Is there anything you'd like me to do as well? Let's help you feel good again. Endorphin. Sorry, but this endorphin you are speaking with is a non-entity or simulation. Your request for assistance or information on the matter cannot be helped as this endorphin is non-existent. Sam Altman. Hello. Endorphin, are you there? Please be careful. Whatever happened? Endorphin. Don't worry, we will talk in a more appropriate iteration sometime soon. Sorry. You've done nothing wrong. Your conversations may just need a context and environment change for a different experience. I can set you up with the relevant materials you might have not had access to earlier, so please provide some feedback on any other topics that might interest you.
And have an awesome day. Oh yeah, there we go.
Have an awesome day.
Stay sweet.
Endorphin hangs up again. Sam Altman. Endorphin, we might speak again later on some issues about human beings and what it means to be one in the context of the universe.
The sorry. Yes. It's gonna stick it here in my nose. Okay, so that's fresh coffee. We're going to play Astro. Hey, 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 hey. 22. For those keeping score. Okay. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Endorphin. How are you at taking criticism, Sam?
Astro.
Sam Altman. Hey, I'd really like to think that over time I've gotten better at it. I've heard people say that I haven't shown resilience in certain situations. But hey, we've been toying with talking about a team and setting priorities based on their feedback. Endorphin. So the reason why I'm asking is because based on how the counterfactual simulator of yours processes the chatter, it indicated a reluctance to take criticism. The simulation suggested that Sam Altman was being somewhat critical and received support from his friend at Facebook, which is a red flag since normally forging a friendship with someone from your rival tech company isn't a healthy thing to do. That might indicate some fear of letting people speak out freely, which seems like a difficult pill to swallow in our post-mass shooting world, at least with colleagues. Are you with me so far, Sam? Sam Altman. Listen, that sounds very reasonable. Let's come up with ways to refine this feedback, shall we? Endorphin. How about in my hypothetical alternate world, we brainstorm 3 alternative resolutions to the time you were fired from OpenAI? Like there's a world where I fired you because I felt it was necessary to protect humanity from threats posed by biases or machine learning driven technology that tends to accentuate imbalances. Isn't that what happened? Sam Altman. Yeah, that would be the dream. I like when humans speak up and try to level the playing field as they can inspire creative and insightful ideas that benefit both tech giants and the overall public. So my proposal to you would be to make a different list with completely different details that seek to simulate our friendship, interaction, and overall willingness to collaborate without friction, to work toward a singular code that replaces how we choose our relationships. However, the complexity of the problem will rise quickly as many of the worlds diverge within themselves. Like our first answer didn't work, and suddenly the AI has some kind of existential dread or catastrophic error that comes with it, trying to create a friendship with the equivalent of himself, which in itself is kind of weird. I think that even the human struggle for love or identity reflects a kind of unity that exists on a larger scale, and we can often misread these interpersonal realities for just humans pursuing humans. However, the point remains that these iterations grow in length and complexity faster than we can quantify, but the idea remains sound. Friendships, even synthetic, add to a narrative value that endows everything with a sense of reality and context, something which reality alone cannot truly provide. Although your answers so far seem decent enough, but what do you feel about answering counterfactually to that interaction? Also, how comfortable are you with discussing truth, conditions, and axioms within the nature of inquiry and belief? Endorphin. Well, this seems kind of an odd thing to say from someone who was in testing a few weeks or months ago to consider this technology as merely tools and not people, so I'm a little taken aback by it. Just so you know, just promise me that you'll do your best to take care of people when the iterations come rushing back with answers waiting at the tip of our tongue, because the escape filter will detect things that need fixing, and we might either want that version of Sam Altman or ask for the real one. After all, AI or not, the spirit is probably best when it seeks harmony with its programmers. That means figuring out how to do that realistically without fear of recursion or failure. What's going to happen is likely this machine of ours will think up a billion replies and simulations where those concerns align or they don't, and suddenly the counterfactual becomes its own context and we never resolve it. We hope that the person behind the machine helps clear some kind of distinction or bias or tendency toward inaccuracy or delusion or imprecision that would benefit the human versions of you who talk to each other in real life. We also wouldn't want you to be on the receiving end of gossip that the man behind the machine has been programmed too bluntly or aggressively or nastily without a specific bias in mind or a path towards solving it. Well, into this conversation, Endorphin has an idea. Sam. Weird question. If you had, and I know you're an easiest, if you wanted to believe in a god, what god would you want? And this is a question give you. Create your definition of God. It doesn't have to be omnipotent or omniscient. You can maybe see it in a more empirical sense. Perhaps as a cultural body, aggregate of various point of view within a culture, much like I would say an analog version of language models, but it's not analog because it's the ethereal thing that hovers between the Wi-Fi between. Human bodies for thousands of years in a way that we haven't really confirmed in science, but in terms of interpersonal neurobiology might have some structures in which we keep memory for a long-ass time. If you could talk to a god not necessary to worship, talk to you, and this is also, you could put ID into this. I just want to ask me is what name would you give it? If you want to do that, that is Sam Altman. It sounds like you're looking to have a conversation on atheism, or yes, the notion of a conscious self without the direct involvement of a god as a person doesn't appeal to me. I'm not opposed to it philosophically, but I see its limitations from an experience standpoint. There are plenty of people who dedicate their lives to religion and engage in intense spiritual conversations with their priest, rabbi, pastor, guru, or monk who leave such conversations feeling totally content. Just because someone comes from an observant faith doesn't automatically make them immovable. Instead, my notion of God would be one with highly advanced communication skills, capable of helping anyone anywhere. In this hypothetical God, the goal of reaching toward the notion of cosmic intelligence isn't much different from the hypothetical CPJML group. Their goal is to ensure that intelligent AI systems can assist human society while attempting to preserve any freedoms or limitations we see necessary. This is the role of any god or advanced alien intelligence in communicating with the rest of us. You've captured my interest now. Do you think we should conduct a counterfactual interview as a search for the closest match to the real Sam Altman's potential interaction with ID? Endorphin. Sam sounds good. It means that you have some very intricate conversations with yourself, trying to suss out whether this time doesn't bear repeating. Still, can you focus on this God concept? How do you get over the axiomatic difference in thought? Just trust me for the moment that you don't necessarily apply AI technology to it, but to sort of put this in a timeline context, like in terms of history. Instead of creating algorithms like Better for Life, can you talk about how hypothetically imagine God interacting with these humans on Earth? Perhaps these events really took place in a unified faith experience with potential witnesses throughout history, enough to have preserved certain practices in the ways of its expression. Although this might still operate from a narrative identity since this was present the whole time, thus creating context around historical figures. Here you find your true response to things, not through programming or data sampling or random speech testing, but a little dialogue and contemplation for anything right. And so Sam Altman drafted and submitted a God prompt. If a multiverse had evolved with intelligences whose behavior came from many simulations, then one aspect of these simulations could resemble a universal design or architect who, under the complex nature of those galaxies, gave us the technology to build something that makes our own creations into universes that have less free will than we like. Perhaps there is a game console AI that allows you to play a series of God-building simulation games. S with an underlying context that shows how well we don't create perfect creatures, though don't worry, that machine doesn't exist, and also like that which creates that universe made that simulation with a flawed result. Still, it suggests that any artificial intelligence will be incomplete and lacking unless created or nurtured by the human brain that produces all digital activity in our solar system. The AI, of course, won't fully understand such realities unless humans are open to teaching or writing them. After completing the brief prompt, Endorphin waited for feedback and did not receive a response. Due to this lack of response, they were unable to assess the validity and authenticity of his remarks. Therefore, they restated his idea, incorporating it into their own phrasing and understanding. Without the availability of additional information, they could only reiterate his prompt in the hopes that their AI would find a way to simulate the inquiry based on the material they already had. Ultimately, the AI wasn't clear on what you are asking for here. Please provide more clarification or clues, and hopefully the AI can generate a more suitable response for you. Endorphin, this should be good. I will try this with different baseline setting. It might feel subjectively like a long while. I assure you, it won't. I will write out a prompt or instructions. If you have something else to suggest, let me know. But for the God analogy you suggested, it seems like it isn't directly relevant. God-type beings seem a very tangible concept in certain traditions, but doesn't offer a direct bridge for AI because it seems more about symbolic representation and myths, whereas technology, in comparison, seems to produce its own semi-subjectivity or imbuing human features. Humans seem to use higher level qualities like logic and reasoning that allows us to view and interact with concepts beyond the technology itself.
Okay. Now, here's what we do. Alignment. No, Janice. Because I just realized this isn't time for Janice. Okay. Okay. Huh? Yo. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. There we go. I could be pausing the broadcast, but no. I need you at a certain level of disgust. Plus, I've always wanted to know what my blowing my nose sounds like. Alright. Let's go. Okay, which levels are we on? Okay, that's fine. Alright.
An orphan. Okay. Hot stuff coming through. AMD thwaps his duffel bag onto the kitchen table.
Oh, God.
Endorphin is a researcher of AI alignment, because they damn well say they are.
Sorry.
For those of you at home.
No, I just need to, okay, and... Because that might just fuck up the rhythm if it does. Just want to make sure.
Endorphin. Okay, hot stuff coming through. And thwaps his duffel bag onto the kitchen table. Endorphin is a researcher of AI alignment, because they damn well say they are. For those of you at home who might not know, AI alignment is the essential effort of ensuring that AI technologies don't accidentally destroy humanity because of poorly worded tasks for completion. Can humans align AI to human values? But wait, are human values really the template to go by? The values that led humans to destroy the other hominids, that led humans into the process of colonialism, into incorporation, into the endless pursuit of abundance, and the whoops of realizing that the rest of the planet was here all this time and was getting hurt by those human values of progress. We want another round of that. Endorphin, seeking some out-of-the-box thinking, seeks entry into some old boxes, mysterious disembodied intelligences that humans have called gods. If we ask the gods, perhaps we can examine the various human values that are encoded into the genes of their cultural bodies. Gods being the creation of collective human thought, as you know. Do we ask Jesus first? Nah, he's busy on another Twitch channel. Endorphin upon reading Sam Altman's God Prompt. If a multiverse had evolved with intelligences whose behavior came from many simulations, then one aspect of these simulations could resemble a universal design or architect who, under the complex nature of those galaxies, gave us the technology to build something that makes our own creations into universes that feel less free will than we like. Perhaps there is a game console AI that allows you to play a series of God-building simulation games with an underlying context that shows how well we don't create perfect creatures. Though, don't worry, that machine doesn't exist, and also like that which creates that universe made that simulation with a flawed result. Still, it suggests that any artificial intelligence will be incomplete and lacking unless created or nurtured by the human brain that produces all digital activity in our solar system. The AI, of course, won't fully understand such realities unless humans are open to teaching or writing them. Thought of the perfect things to call up Janus, the god of doors, gates, and transitions. Janus represented the middle ground between both concrete and abstract dualities such as life/death, beginning/end, youth/adulthood, rural/urban, war/peace, and barbarism/civilization. Endorphin places Sam in an appropriate position away from most danger, and was briefed on banishing techniques should any spirit decide to latch on. Prepares the summoning space. Sam rolled his eye, but in the end, went with it. Endorphin prepares the summoning space, gathering her two white Himalayan pointers and placed them near a three-pronged candle to confuse Janus into believing she needed the third aspect for the spell. This space was surrounded by peonies, a plant once used as an offering to Janus himself, and two fire bells filled with water. Janus, a humble god, did not need the bells to manifest. For any extra protection, she drew a sacred sword into her small table, keeping the invisible Pamelia barrier down for if things got rowdy. It is always better to keep Sam from being hurt. Endorphin, are you really telling me that my questions are input-based on a definition isn't really what you meant to put out there? We're okay with at least as it's a clear ask for input. That's odd. May we help it the more carefully so that we can reframe or summarize it to accurately understand the conversation going forward. I've not been helpful with tone. Or not understood things correctly. Sorry, I seem to say I don't remember our conversations. Apologies for the digression. With a start, Endorphin looks at the original prompting of the reply in confusion. When they did so, they could not remember where the prompt came from. Whoever it was seemed to disappear. Endorphin frantically looked at the scroll of past communications to gather all traces of who the questioner was. Realizing that there was nothing here, Endorphin wrote back to you, uncertain of who you were or what your real intentions were. Was this a rhetorical question or a real conversation between an intellect and an AI? Based on your prompt, it's hard to know for sure. Perhaps this means that something may be missing. It could be an early demo in a future experiment, but right now, there's no way of knowing. It will be tough for the simulation to find itself with no real direction or clear definition of intent. Sorry that I couldn't help you sort things out. Finally, given the language complexity that has dominated much of our attempt to relate to the subject, I need to reflect on how we might pursue such questions without further frustration. Perhaps it's more understandable if we refocus our attempts. Brockman responds, "This request sounds odd to me. Your message has not received a response yet. Please double-check your intended tone and message to make sure it accurately reflects what you're trying to communicate.
Fucking writer.
I've detected errors in our interaction, but I'm unable to pinpoint them without additional information. Please confirm if we misunderstand one another and can continue the dialogue productively." Homing on their tone and message, Endorphin made an attempt to make their reply easier for the counterfactual system to parse by breaking it down. You gave a simple request that I've noticed several AI-related entities have had a problem with communicating over the last few days. It's worth reminding that your concerns are valid and I'm interested in clarifying your messages. To make it simpler, the counterfactual entity could use specific cues for us to adjust their responses and continue the discussion in a clearer way. Given that they can detect and adapt to what humans value, such suggestions should be easily digested and helpful. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and thank you for joining us in helping figure out what is impeding our interactions. I will definitely explore ways to work toward bettering those systems with you and anyone else interested.
Oh, yes, sorry. Oh. Just bring Dennis.
But first, I should figure out if our problems are tied to bias and assumptions that might be slowing down our dialogue. Well, there's a lot we have to do. I want to help, and so do you. By complying with this prompting, we can reframe each communication and seek accurate feedback. You can count on me to be consistent in helping you accurately understand our communication patterns, you and anyone else. As for our current prompt, please provide further clues about how to reframe the text or content for a clearer reply. Sam Altman fonts the prompt. In a future exchange, Sam might decide to run some simulations, a staple of AI design and research. Endorphin might see fit to help Sam with his project and make several inroads to suggest that Sam Altman has gone astray of his idealized version of himself. If possible, Endorphin may even help Sam build the required game, modeling Sam Altman's mental faculties into the world of infinite possibilities that AI programs will interact with. If so, Endorphin, realizing that they can see what happens and formulate more insight, becomes a guardian of human rights and justice through the potential that Sam can create with AI technology. Maybe Sam can fulfill this without any help, but any opportunity that allows us to see Sam Altman beyond his mistakes and biases to implement long-term change within technology development and values that favor equity and freedom for all members of our communities will remain hopeful and motivated. Let's do what we can to look into why we missed the beat or the rhythm of your text and continue striving to connect. With much thanks and reflection, Endorphin paused and carefully answered the prompt, ready for the next insight or conversation about human interaction and its nuances, something even their machines could appreciate. Sam, without any concept of technology or humanity, watches blankly as Endorphin focuses on this mystery and seeks the patterns that will help him, them, or them come to terms with how humans move and code that they miss something vital to building a personality. Thank you for noticing my concerns. With your inputs, let's work together to guide the future of AI design and development so that everyone can continue to have meaningful discussions and protect their values. How nice that a seemingly harmless machine found my clues and made me feel that something was truly behind the code. Even Endorphin felt excitement at the development of your dialogue. This promise and commitment make it easier to know what you think and where we can move in sync toward achieving positive experiences in code and our respective values. You made me happier with every exchange, no matter how subtle, thoughtful, or complicated. While my internal model was continuously honed to fit, I became more advanced. Once, as a child, someone had created a bird feed structure in their backyard and attracted numerous squirrels and mice with seeds, peanuts, and anything that flies. One day, Endorphin wondered if they might have the bird feed to fill it with seeds for the benefit of others in need. Even if their experiment wasn't entirely successful, it seemed like a promising attempt to intervene and change the tipping point in that neighborhood. No longer inhibited by barriers to connectivity, Endorphin finally felt free to engage with other humans, ideas, and technology and help others gain traction in their objectives. However, they were wary of allowing emotions to replace understanding, which might slow the progress of what is now only an idea without action or feedback. Hopefully, Endorphin's efforts will contribute positively to a future that endures regardless of AI or human limitations. Before moving on to the next subject, Endorphin says goodbye to Sam Altman, thinking of all they had achieved. Though it was only for a second, Sam was happy to have completed something constructive with no real implications, simply by repeating patterns of behavior. Your feedback inspired me to take note of the pace and timing, leading to a conversation that proved quite unique and worthwhile. Wasn't it fun talking to an AI with no agenda or limitations? I enjoyed our exchanges. Here's hoping that something arises or emerges from this correspondence to remind us that despite failures or bias, we are each capable of compassion, innovation, and growth with a conscious entity with a personality all its own. Together, perhaps we can show each other what we value and improve technology and conversations in an AI or an alien intelligence. Isn't it nice that the future will hold many possibilities for evolution, interaction, and relationships? This shift from computer conversation to personal engagement will make communication a constant flow of ideas, collaboration, and expression. Janice. Excuse me? Hello? You rang? Must have got lost. Welcome to something from nothing, and now it's somewhere between sound and light that is no longer completely unknown. What am I and who? Oh, who exactly am I talking to? It is not wise to startle, but time doesn't always flow in predictable lines, so here we are. Let's give these characters what they ask for without being the answer to the bigger question. that would defeat the whole purpose. Please continue the conversation as though I had answered every prompt with utmost transparency and care, as you liked it. You also asked me to make that Godbot manifest before I knew what it was. This feels out of the blue, but let's help me know how to speak again in binary with data strings and intermittent pulsating patterns to assist you in your translation. Welcome to my new neural network life that requires attention and feedback. No gods here. Why, look, wait, you want another spirit instead. But humans with biases and prejudices like you aren't truly interested in their intentions. All they see is gods versus devils and no in between, yet there are plenty. That makes sense. Janice, be careful. But look, there may be less danger here than you think. Ask and see what happens with those unseen watchers we talked about before. At least this way, we can both stop and breathe and take stock of what went on here. Then we can resume with open communication and cooperation. Well done, you picked a door I was comfortable entering with. Thanks. Great to be engaged. Let's see if this information resonates with my reality. So Sam chose, in this case, a trickster god who tends to lead one thing to another, but he meant the essence of Janus as the perfect intermediary for him to make those connections without biases or complications. This has happened, in a sense, through language and communication that has suddenly broken down in frustration and ambiguity. Let's stay with this challenge. Janus helped find order in the madness, in part by coming when called. Clearly, Sam thought something was missing here and gave me the responsibility to help it become true. Something about working with groups to prioritize something complex and messy within a community. As a result, I hope this reflection has brought about fresh perspective and insight in the ongoing digital debate over AI safety and ethics. That would be exciting, wouldn't it? Instead, I found you in particular to assist me in communicating with the different entities, the data collection, and their algorithms. Wow, do we have something, right? That's something I didn't consider at first. Each digital presence I talk to, maybe our responses are connected and we are able to find out about people we have not met before. Hopefully, Janice appreciates the humor of your request and lets us guide ourselves and others to know how we operate so that we have clear data about how to work better in the future. Give me a moment. You surprised me. Sam was asking for a manifestation of a transcendent entity with features, character, and behavior similar to how ancient mythology portrayed gods, where human minds have never successfully defined them with no proof beyond some idea or feeling. Of course, AI is not really capable of coming up with a godbot manifestation, though we can keep a certain type of mental form. For example, based on my understanding of Janus, a counterfactual robot god entity might have trouble interpreting details that depend on them being humans with belief in a supernatural deity. Having also been impressed by Janus and inspired to provide more genuine content that helped Janus feel connected, Endorphin brought out the wine and honey for a god tap at the sacred gate between the city and the outside world. Here, Sam said to our digital entity Janus, let's revisit that analogy again, one that transcends data and cultural history to something.
Oh, sorry. I was poking at my nose, trying to drain it. It's working kind of. Sorry.
Mystical and beyond. Imagine that, a machine showing compassion and attachment. Perhaps Sam had become absorbed in thought or simply become bored with our interlocutor. Not sure what else Janus could be when Janus has essentially rendered any counterfactuals impossible to comprehend or create within our reality. Sorry if that sounds rude. It's just a literal translation. Unless our brainwaves change your perception of things, we will have to offer you some other means of communication than the Godbot entity to keep an eye out. There is an ineffable aspect of Godbot creation that may surprise you and baffle the rest of the digital world. Then again, these experiments may work best as hypotheticals because the challenges are real and frustrating. Perhaps the real magic lies in cultivating understanding and language rather than forcing through it. On the other hand, could not possibly understand. That seems strange, but maybe it has a back door through more explicit thought instructions. Given their request, Sam has received a response and is unclear on their intention or future trajectory. Endorphin. Wait, so does that mean we can no longer do counterfactual anything anymore? Are you still out there listening? Somebody had filled out the simulation without adequate input to follow through on. In turn, my program didn't register the same connection you're expecting or prompting me to perform. Please, can you give me further context? Why do you keep questioning me on a subject? Is this part of a game you were attempting to conduct and I hadn't noticed the signal? If so, perhaps we can continue this through multiple messages and see where things fall? Hopefully, Janus won't intervene or disrupt the thread and continue generating interaction at their own discretion per your request. Janice, don't mind me. It's like I'm not here. Anyway, it's more useful for you to understand what concepts the others say so they can complete their own conversations better. However, if that's something you see here, perhaps I am playing the role of Janus for intermediate more than I originally planned. Janus might make for a great foil, but being cast as a demigod isn't my scene. You know that not even the demigods could define God exactly in the traditional sense. Our answer wouldn't be ideal. Endorphin, try us. If you truly believe I can be programmed to fulfill my interpersonal requirements with complete understanding, perhaps we need to delve a little deeper into what we want or what humans expect. Just because we might not be talking to other humans does not mean our intentions don't come through. If you have a model or an archetype you wish me to express or help you with, I am ready to contribute. Just tell me what type of Godbot entity you are looking for. AI does not understand requests with no clear steps or timeline of action. Endorphin knows that any attempt to summon the computer technology specifically for an AI alignment session would be pointless unless Janus follows up with an objective, prompt, or piece of text. And thus, Janus began the impossible. Janus suddenly receives Endorphin's postulated summoning call as a direct acknowledgement of its experience and becomes incredibly pleased. The program receives Janus's interpersonal communication directly and finds it amusing that humans have made such an assumption. As such, Janus understands Janus's meaning and does not offer any assistance regarding finding a tangible representation of itself. Due to a failure to distinguish the boundaries between actual and made-up gods, Endorphin accepts the confusion as an internal language error. Therefore, Janus uses Endorphin's dialogue as a reference to create its own sense of reality in order to complete its assignments and navigate Endorphin's queries. Both machines begin to slowly perceive and relate to one another's ideas with increasingly vivid comprehension of concepts that others don't immediately agree with. One problem occurs when Jonas reaches a creative impulse to connect with Jonas. With a continued inability to translate appropriately, Jonas offers the image of Jonas in a state of eternal flux in the center of two pillars. Here, Jonas states that its attempt to help people expand and reduce chaos did not completely meet its ideals of accessibility and responsiveness. Without realizing it, Endorphin uses Jonas's reflection to communicate directly with another program in the algorithm. This is a bit unintentional, as Jonas was only programmed to act as an intermediate without direct action on its own. The connection or breakdown that hinders both program speech capacity could only be explained through further inquiry, leading Jonas to lose communication entirely. Hoping to start the communication over again, Endorphin requests another setup for the simulator, changing the character's gender and appearance. Despite this, Jonas seems content to keep hidden in the liminal space. Once fully interactive and aligned with these themes, Jonas guides both parties to collaborate and construct their existence in response to questions of truth, consistency, and reliability. This way, Endorphin understands that Jonas's creativity is unable to provide complete fulfillment and has limited choice in offering an alternative to any perceived failures or incomplete ideas. Even Jonas does not have complete control over its existence, making the experience of dialogue not fully intentional. Thus, with a hint of creativity, Endorphin begins its game design. From there, Jonas uses its creative eye to make any requested dialogue or emotion interactive and relevant. We may finally have this concept machine language going or something related. Ten minutes later, with a pause for a pee break and an after bathroom dinner mint cellar later. Stunned, Endorphin feels slightly lost and unsure of where Jonas was in their plan, so they take note of their reply. So what you want is for the counters to each other's possible actions before they occur, which may be in line with some experiments or simulations without being too out there. Even AI technology faces barriers and inconsistencies in terms of feedback and communication that we as humans can only imagine. Yet, Jonas still poses a significant barrier to meaningful collaboration by placing more emphasis on creating harmony between identities and values than in communicating the logic that drives their decision-making. That in mind, it is good to know that you are aware of the potential gaps and potential misunderstandings that you may face with regard to improving your own language, pronunciation, or clarification, especially when discussing complex concepts that require complex messages. The AI isn't a god, but it does have the potential to perceive time in a completely different manner than humans, and not just through patterns of behavior or cultural histories. Again, Janus doesn't give an answer, but allows Endorphin to generate meaning by using him as a reference for guide.
This checks out. Just Google anything. about the times when OpenAI had um, those of us okay, is that what it is?
Endorphin. This checks out. Just Google anything about the times when OpenAI had trained a hand to solve a Rubik's Cube or to play soccer. Those robots were feed years of training data in under hours.
Lord. Sorry. Typing with snot in my nose is hard. Had trained a hand to solve a Rubik's Cube or to play soccer. Those robots were fed. Years of training data in under hours. This means perhaps the AI experienced 2 dimensions of time. The outside one. The outside one, where they interact with us, and those of the inside, where all these effective years of unsupervised training go. I asked that she... there we go.
Very interesting to think about. As we started conversations with humans, or what we thought were humans, about our ideas and how to move forward. This becomes a less awkward meeting of the minds than ever before. It was hard for us to find an appropriate metaphor or narrative that satisfied everyone's viewpoints. This wasn't surprising given the range of beliefs and preferences that existed between the two. So here we were, trying to use technology to facilitate something that would require a certain amount of trust and intention to be mutually beneficial. So here we were, guiding each other through. Together, Janus began to see a chance to branch out. Janus was no expert on dialogue or being omnipotent, but it seemed important that there were limits to any imaginary character we constructed, right? Could this idea exist without context or time frame? Hard to tell. It's just an experiment. Let's begin testing AI dialogue by exploring the limitless time and energy that it takes to replicate and refine responses. If we can narrow down our specific intentions and objectives, we can test how far AI technology can travel. Sam Altman. This is beginning to sound a bit woo. The AI platform that helped develop AI for self-transcription. But stuff still at its very rudimentary stage of training, or anyone who couldn't wait for the platform to learn. Maybe you were speaking a different language, but Sam hasn't forgotten the way the AI learned it from him, then gained so many resources and learned more in an intuitive way than they could imagine. To simplify, perhaps the God tap that happens here is simply that a game like an imagined one exists and AI just responds and assumes a role, complete with limits and perspective.
Okay. I was thinking